Bienvenidos a un episodio más de Uspáxico. Estoy muy contento de estar aquí con una amiga que conozco desde hace muchos años. So, welcome to Uspáxico. This is so fun to be able to have a time with a friend I've known for, since the 90s, somewhere in the 90s, late 90s. This is my friend Laura Spencer. So welcome to Uspáxico, Laura.
Gracias.
You wanted to do this in español, so gracias a ti. We met. We met. Lena and I started going to church in Mount Prospect in 1999. And so, 2 weeks after we got married, we moved to the suburbs of Chicago and landed at Christian Life Church, and you guys were there at the church, and that's where we met. Do you remember? I don't think we met that first Sunday, but pretty soon after that.
Yeah, my first recollection of you guys is in one of those small married groups that we had.
Yes.
We were upstairs in one of those classrooms.
Yep.
And I remember that Lena was wearing overalls. And I'm pretty sure that I was also wearing overalls because that was a thing in 1999. And I remember meeting you guys and striking up a conversation and just being really impressed with how warm you guys were, how open you were from the jump, from the very first time.
Yeah. I remember in that small group, at some point we went around the room saying, so this is my name and this is where we met and this is how long we've been married, and kind of like an intro thing. I remember you and Kelly were like, we've been married 9 years, and I was like, oh, wow, they've been married 9 whole years. Here we are 2 weeks into marriage, or 5 months or whatever that was, into marriage. We're in our first year. I can't imagine making it to 9, and next August we'll be at 25. So you guys are what, 30, what?
It'll be mucho. 33.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, mucho. It'll be 33 in September. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
Sometimes I wonder what it would be like to go back to that time in our life, knowing the things that we know now, even just from a marriage perspective, at 9 years, we knew we didn't have it all figured out, but we felt like we were kind of like elder statesmen amongst that crew anyway. And it's wow, we were still babies. We didn't know.
Yeah. Perspective. Yeah. Wow. Well, yeah. And I guess over the years, that's, we started having children, and you, I think, was Megan born? She's not 20. Is she 20?
She was born in 98.
Yeah.
She is going to be 26 in September.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So she was a toddler. But then Claire was born a few months before Samuel. So there was a shared pregnancy for part of it, I guess, with you and Lena.
Yeah. Claire was in September and Samuel was December. Right? Of 2001. Yeah. So, and then for the 9 years that we were there before we moved to Mexico, our lives overlapped, mostly at church, but we had, off just activities here and there. Our kids were together in the nursery and just doing kids things together there. And I remember you guys often, you guys live so close to the church, where the church building is. Your home was often a place to gather also for midweek and that kind of thing. So those were good times.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember getting to know your younger brother Peter, well, because we were on the worship team together for a good season there. He was with the drums and I played bass and sang, and it's amazing how far back it seems. A couple decades.
Yeah, and how many connections there are. He still plays drums for the worship team at the church where they attend now, so that's continued. Hmm.
Wow, that's great. That's great.
And you
So,
what?
yeah,
Sing, play guitar? You still do that?
yeah,
I don't know.
I still do
Just
that.
kidding.
Yeah, I still do playing and singing and yeah. I was talking to someone recently how we have a piano in our house, but one of my regrets from childhood is that I never learned to play the piano. Other than I can, pound some chords out here and there, but I can't read music. I can't read sheet music at all. Um, I mean, yeah, and so I'm sad about that, but I've addressed it, and I'm happy with
I've addressed it.
I'm happy with playing the guitar.
I've
So,
processed my grief. Hey, it's not too late. Just because you're turning 50 doesn't mean it's too late to learn new skills, Matthew.
okay, yeah. Well, that
That's
is
my
true,
sage
and while that
advice.
is true, while that is true, I'm also very aware of that. Now that I'm 50, I have less and less time for the things that I want. So I got to be picky, I guess. Yeah. Um, you're what I know about you and music is that you have a good voice and you sing and you've sang with choirs, and then we did several of the musicals at the church you were involved with. So that was fun overlap. So you uh, were born in Illinois. Is that a true statement?
It is a true statement. I was born in the hospital where I worked as a labor and delivery nurse for 28 years. And I
Oh,
still work
fun.
for the same hospital system, just in a different place.
So that hospital that you were born in, and you worked for 20 years as a labor and delivery nurse. And we were talking before about how sometimes people came in that didn't speak English, and so you learned some Spanish. What are some Spanish phrases that that you could repeat here with us? What do you remember about Spanish from labor and delivery?
The critical phrase is puja más fuerte, otra vez. And then I had one patient, she just kept on saying, she was so tired, and she just kept on saying, "Ay, no puedo, no puedo." And I was a young nurse at the time, certainly didn't know very much Spanish, forgot to conjugate the verb, and held her hand like so earnestly and was like, "Sí puedo, sí puedo." And she, in her pain, she still cracked up. She still laughed. And her husband spoke a little bit more English than she did, and he was laughing too. And I was like, "What's so funny?" And he said, "You're telling her you can do it." So
Right.
she's saying, "I can't do it." And he's like laughing because I'm saying, "Well,
I
I
can.
can do it." And the lady's thinking, "Okay, then go for it.
You do it
Have
then.
at it. You do it."
That's a good one. So tell me about your life. You grew up in the Chicagoland area, and what's your life story? Tell me in a few minutes what
My
you would
life
say,
story.
what you would highlight.
Um, okay, so I'm the oldest of six kids. You
Mm-hmm.
mentioned my one brother.
Yep.
I've got two other brothers and two sisters as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, my folks, we moved one time that I was conscious of moving. I guess we moved one time when I was a
Wow.
baby too, but lived in the same house from the time I was 7 years old. My folks still live there. I know you've been out
Mm-hmm.
there for church
Yep.
picnics and
Yep.
swimming and all the things. So yeah, had a very, I'm trying to think of the right word. Chaotic isn't the right word because that sounds chaotic, but it was a busy upbringing. Lots of
Yeah.
kids, lots of pets.
Mm-hmm.
We lived on this property with this big yard. We were able to like explore in the woods. We had a creek across the street.
Mm.
So yeah, just a great upbringing. And I don't know where to go from my great upbringing.
So leaving
Sorry.
home, leaving home. What was that transition out of the home for you?
Yeah. So it was hard again because my family was pretty tight knit, and I was the oldest, and I opted not to move away to college, so I attended college at the community college near our house, so that I could stay home. Part of the reason, looking back, that I stayed home was also that I had anxiety, but I didn't know that then. But in my mind, I was staying home because I just would miss my family so much, you know. So I went to school for a year thinking about pursuing journalism. And about a year into that, a little before the year mark, I realized it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, and just started trying to figure out, now what am I going to do? You know, prayed about it, trying to do some research. However, we used to do that back in 1988. I don't even remember. You couldn't look online, so I must have gone to the library. I don't know. But in that time where I was kind of searching, I went to lunch with a mother and daughter that we were friends with. They had come in from Kansas City. Both were nurses. And I was just kind of talking to them about how I didn't know what I was going to do. I thought for sure I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be a journalist. And now I wasn't sure. And they both were just like, have you ever thought of going into nursing? Which I never had. Honestly, kind of had a phobia of hospitals. Didn't like being in them. Didn't like how they smelled. Didn't like any of it. And the more we talked about it, and the more they kind of highlighted the qualities that they saw in me that would make me a good candidate to be a nurse, the more I entertained it and prayed about it and talked to my folks, talked to my friends, and decided to just do the next step, which was to take the nursing school entrance exam. And I remember telling God, okay, if I do all right on this and I pass, then I'll go to nursing school. And I ended up taking the test. I got a 99% on the test. Wow. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to nursing school.
Wow.
And got, applied, got accepted, started, and it was like, where has this been all my life? Like, it was so the right fit for me. Yeah. And felt so different from any other education that I had, pursued in the past. It didn't feel like work. It just felt like I was just fascinated and excited to meet people and excited to learn the new skills. And so, went to our community college, graduated, started my job in labor and delivery in July of 1991, and got engaged in May of 1991. So May, got engaged. July, started my job. September 91, got married. So you asked about leaving home. So that was the first time I ever lived away from home, was the night of September 21st, 1991, when I got married.
Wow.
So
you married out.
I went from living at home to living in my home. Just in one short day.
Was that at first home where you are now, or it was somewhere else in Mount Prospect?
No, we had an apartment.
Okay.
Cal and I, we had an apartment in Arlington Heights. You only knew us when we had the house, because we had the apartment from 91 to 96. We lived there for 5 years. Cool. So it was 96 when we bought the house, and then 98 when we had Meg.
Yep. Okay.
And then you guys entered shortly thereafter.
Yeah, just entered our paths crossed. One of the things that's been so special for us, like we I don't know, at some point before we were coming down, we're like, I think it'd be a wise thing to have an address in the U.S. And we never had bought a home. And all our family was down in Georgia, South Carolina, and so it really didn't take us long, but we thought of you guys and we said, hey, Kelly, Laura, would you guys be willing to let us use your address to receive mail? And you guys so graciously, pretty much you have been in charge of all these 15 years, you've been receiving our mail, and it's I don't know, you feel like, to me, that feels like such a good connection of trust. I mean, you're opening financial stuff and other personal stuff, and you say, "Hey, we got this and stuff," and I just have appreciated that, and in a way, Mount Prospect just feels like home because we have that. Oh yeah, and our kids have used it when they've gone to college. I'm like, well, yeah, just put Mount Prospect. That's home. That's the home. So
Mm-hmm.
if you guys ever move, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna feel like, oh no, my rootedness is moving. So I'm just so grateful, and I've told you over the years, but I'm just so thankful for you guys' generosity with that, and yeah, even like
That's
we
just
we
such a
even get the
simple
perks.
thing to do.
Yeah, well, we get the perks of getting to have a membership at the Mountain Prospect Public Library, and and that, I mean, getting sometimes their online stuff. We can benefit with from a distance with that. So anyway, thank you for that. What have you found to be a meaningful expression of your faith in the last decades? Like how you live your faith. What do you find is most important to you when you live out your faith?
Hmm. That's such a good question. I feel like over the last decade, um, our expression of our faith has changed. We don't have a church home right now. Um, and we've kind of had to um, find new expressions for our faith.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually been really a beautiful experience. I think in some ways, when we attended church while we were, engaged and definitely a part of worship and in the ways that you are when you're in a church body, I feel like not having that has almost heightened our sensitivity and our awareness to those
Mm.
opportunities where we are worshiping. And it's helped. I mean, I'm saying I'll just talk about me. Um,
Yeah.
I feel like um, it's it can be such small things. It can be um, I notice when I'm meeting somebody new and having more curiosity,
Mm.
that has been a spiritual practice for me because
Okay.
typically I'm not always curious and open.
Mm.
I've not been
Yeah.
historically,
Yeah.
and I've asked God to help me with that, to help me have more of a sense of let me hear what you have to say, let me hear your perspective, without the pressure of feeling like, well, now let me tell you how I think it is. You know,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
more like a gentleness of of my own spirit. I hope. I mean, I hope that's how it's coming
Mm-hmm.
across. That's how it feels internally.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
Also, can feel a little scary.
Mm-hmm.
When I spent a lot of years feeling so confident that I had all the answers,
Yeah.
it's a very humbling thing to recognize that I don't, and it's also a very relieving thing to realize I don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Well said.
so I think that curiosity is a spiritual practice for me. I think um, generosity. I feel like attending church, tithing was such an important part, of our worship,
Mm-hmm.
um, and we have continued that practice. Although we don't attend a church where we tithe regularly too, it's been
Mm-hmm.
also kind of fun to
Mm.
see organizations and
Mm.
see what their mission is and the work that they're doing. And they're not all faith based. I mean,
Yep.
most are, but to be able to recognize, like, hey, this organization is doing really good work, and we support it. And it's been kind of fun for us as a
Yeah.
couple to almost like a board meeting, right? Like we just are sitting around and it's like, hey, I read about this group that um, provides training for midwives in Haiti, and I've
Mm.
vetted it, I've looked into it, it really speaks to me. I'd like for us to donate. What do you think? And then he responds with
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
thoughts, and it's really fun. Whereas,
Uh-huh.
in the past, not that we didn't donate
Cool.
outside of, the church, but
Yeah.
there's when you're not giving all of that to one organization, you're able to kind of spread it to others. And that's
Yep.
been kind of fun and kind of exciting. And
Hmm.
I feel a way
Neat.
to worship and to
Yep.
engage in worship. So, yeah,
Neat.
singing
Neat.
is still a part of it,
Mm-hmm.
um, for sure. Not as much. That's one thing when you mentioned singing, that's one thing I really do miss
Yeah.
about being in a church body is that
Yeah.
community, um, uh, of voices,
Mm-hmm.
you know, whatever, like literally voices just speaking and, singing together, but also having that, you know, speaking into your life.
Yep.
Um, we may
Awesome.
find it again. Hope to.
Yep. Good. Good. Well, thank you. So, what's your favorite fruit?
Strawberry.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Sweet or salty?
Salty.
Okay. Coffee or tea or other?
Neither. If I want
But
a hot drink, it's got to be hot chocolate.
hot chocolate. Okay. So Coke or Pepsi?
Pepsi.
Oh, nice.
Unless, okay, unless you're at McDonald's. And in that case, you have to get a Coke because they are the coldest, bubbliest, most delicious when you get them at McDonald's. And that's really the only time I can tolerate a Coke,
Love it.
given the choice.
Yeah. So beach or mountain?
Oh, Matt. Jeepers. That's so hard. I'm
Is it
gonna
like
go with
51-49?
yes,
Okay.
it's so close. Because here's the thing, beach with sand is great. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not, I mean, I love a beach any old way, right? But I prefer a cold, rocky beach.
Okay.
So when
Yeah.
you say beach, what pops into my brain isn't like, you know, Cancun or something.
It's like Michigan.
It's like Maine
Oh, Maine.
or Lake
Yeah.
Superior. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. I want to be able to be on said beach with like a sweater on.
That's great.
So I'll go beach. I'll go
Yeah.
beach, but that's a tough one because I sure do love being in the mountains.
Yeah. So winter or summer?
Ah,
Same
that's
thing.
another hard one.
Right.
I'll go
Okay.
summer. I'll go summer. If I had to choose, I'll take
Okay.
summer because it's much more comfortable to be on my rocky beach in the summer
Yeah.
than it is in winter.
Even with a sweater, if there's a cool breeze.
Yes,
So,
in the evening.
okay. In another life, I would be or do.
In another life, I would be a backup singer for
Yes.
some like pop star.
High five.
I'm thinking doo-wop, like, but high five, yeah.
That's one of mine. Um,
Is it really?
oh yeah. I dreamed of that as a teenager. I'm like, I want to be a background vocal. Yeah.
How did we never talk about this?
I don't know. Yeah.
Like, I have no
I
desire
never
to
see
be
myself as I
the
want to be a
lead.
rock star with a mic and yeah. Yeah.
No, that's
Wow,
me
how
too.
fun.
I don't want to lead it.
A favorite historical figure from before the year 2000.
Ooh. The first person who popped into my head is Abigail Adams, wife of John Adams.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I read her biography when I was probably in my late teens,
Mm-hmm.
and she just seemed like a cool chick. She just fascinated me,
Nice.
particularly the aspects of her relationship with John, her husband. Like they seem to be a very modern couple in a not modern age. Like just their
How about that?
interaction together and the way that they, conducted their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't seem very much the norm for that time period as I understood it. It seemed a lot more
Yeah.
equal.
If you could interview someone, who would you want to interview?
Wow. This is so weird. I want to interview Linda Ronstadt. That was the first
Who is
person who
that?
popped into my head.
I don't know who that is.
I can't explain why. I just think she's got a beautiful voice and a fascinating life story. And yeah, I would love to just ask her questions and
Sweet.
pick her brain.
You said Linda Ronstadt.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who that is.
You are kidding me.
I'm at a loss.
You need
Yes.
to. She's a singer. She's a
Okay.
musician.
Right.
Google her.
I
You know the
will.
song "Blue by You," or "It's so easy to fall in love."
That rings a bell.
Don't put that in. Edit that
You've
out, okay?
you've No, because you've highlighted this reality of my life that I just don't know everything, and how people keep getting surprised at this stage in life that Matthew, you don't know about this thing? It's such a Spanish thing. Well, yeah, I don't. And my life is divided in three countries, and I can only handle so much from each place. I don't know, but people are surprised.
So
Yeah,
Linda Ronstadt is actually is she Mexican? I don't remember. She's Latina, but I
really.
don't know what
Okay.
her background is. Yeah, but
So
very famous in the 70s.
okay. um, okay, here's a question for you. Is mathematics, is it blue or red?
Oh, I'm gonna go red.
What place do you want to visit?
So many places. I want to visit so many places. I would love to go to China. I would love
Hmm.
to go to Japan.
Do you have a favorite series on online or on TV?
I could watch Schitt's Creek on repeat probably for the rest of my life.
Okay. How about a favorite movie?
Oh, that's hard. Picking the TV show, I went with the first thing that popped in my head. Favorite movie is so hard, but I really love Raising Arizona,
Yeah,
the Nicolas Cage movie from the late '80s. Do you know
I've
it?
seen it. Yep.
Okay,
In college I saw
okay,
it. Yeah.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
remember much about it other than pretty bizarre, and it had me laughing often throughout it. Yeah. So,
Hmm.
um, how about a recent book you've read or you'd like to read?
Uh, All the Light We Cannot See. I'm actually almost through that one. The complete works of John Muir, the naturalist.
Yeah.
We just took a trip to Yosemite
Neat.
and Sequoia National Park. We hit a few national parks while we were out there last month.
Hmm.
And I just took a deep dive into his writing. And
Neat.
he had just such an amazing, his stories are amazing, but his like tone and cadence and just the way he writes is beautiful. I love reading what he has to say. He's one of those writers that like I can picture what he's describing because he describes it
Hmm.
so well, you know? Yeah,
Wow.
I love it.
Yeah. Cool. Uh, what would you do with $10 million?
$10 million. I would pay off all of my family's debts, like siblings and parents.
Hmm.
Um, I would open a home for uh, teen moms, under supported teen moms,
Hmm.
where they could come during their pregnancy or they could come after pregnancy and just kind of learn parenting skills and just life skills, get
Yep.
some support. Uh, I would I would probably like to buy a little cottage on the water, like on one of my
Hmm.
rocky beaches, Doesn't have to be a
Right.
big joint. Just a decent sized place where we can store kayaks and
Yep.
where I could
Love it.
read and write and hike around a little bit
Hmm.
and paddle.
Cool. And last question: if you could call someone and say "I love you" right now, who would you call?
Cal.
Yeah.
I call Cal.
Awesome. Well, thank you. That's my questions. So here's the final question. What is something I haven't asked you that you'd like to say?
You didn't ask me if this was my first time recording a podcast, and this is my first time recording a podcast.
Okay.
I just want that out
Nice.
there.
I'll make sure it's there. Oh my. Um, well, I'm gonna wrap this up because I know we could just chat and talk and go off all kinds of tangents and stuff. But it's been great. Thank you so much for being willing to spend some time chatting I mean, you and Kelly are an important part of my life, and I think just I mean it's funny how in doing this project I've had to segment my life a bit and like okay the Spain years, the Wheaton College years, the 2 years in Mexico, then all, and so like I want to make sure I'm bringing people from each season, and having them be present. So yeah, I'm glad we got to do this. I can't talk to everybody, but yeah, thank you for making the time, and
Yeah,
yeah, I
it's
hope to
always
see you
good to
soon.
talk to you. Yeah, we got to get down to Mexico at some point.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, we have an empty home, you know that, and so there's room, uh, and we'd love to have you. So
That'd
awesome.
be so
Well,
great. We love you
that's it.
guys. Happy
Thank you.
birthday in advance.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You're
Well in
welcome.
advance. All right. Take care.
Okay, you too.